Hi, thank you for watching this video. My name is Mike. I plan on doing a couple of reviews a week, movies, TV series, that type of thing, on this channel. Today I will be reviewing not Night of the Living Dead, Return of the Living Dead from 1985. It was a movie I was very much looking forward to going back and watching. It is a comedy, horror, sci-fi movie. It's an hour and 31 minutes long. You can find it on HBO Max if you want to check it out. The first thing I noticed about rewatching this movie was that it had a lot of crossover with Friday the 13th Part 5 and 6. A lot of the same actors are in both movies, and everybody did a great job. Especially Thom Matthews, who played the lead character in this and in Friday the 13th Part 6, playing the character of Tommy. Now, I want to give you a few facts about this movie before we move forward, just in that it was made for $4 million, and in the end, it wound up making $14,237,880. So that's something. And it was nominated for some Saturn Awards. It was nominated for Best Horror Film. It was nominated for Best Actor, featuring James Karen. It was nominated for Best Director with Dan O'Bannon. It was nominated for Best Makeup. So, yes, so that was that. And we have a interesting story. This is a story I find interesting, where the extras were paid extra to eat actual raw live calf brains, and some of them actually did it. And the director himself even did it, just to show he was one with the crew, and he wouldn't ask them to do anything he wouldn't do himself. So now moving on to the movie, which I very much enjoyed. These are going to be spoilers going ahead, so if you don't want to know from beginning to end what happens, you can just skip ahead if you want to the very end and just hear my general thoughts. So, uh, let's see. Sorry about that. The opening scene. The opening scene I liked a whole lot, where it was a zombie movie, pretty much opening up by talking about another zombie movie, the original zombie movie, Night of the Living Dead, and giving you the quote behind the scenes of it, and then how it relates to this movie, and that how they have actual living dead bodies that they got from the American government accidentally in the basement. And as they go down there, smoke leaks out, they pass out, they get sick. And then when they come to, the corpse that was in this canister is now gone, and they assume that he is just melted away. So fast forward a little bit further, and we have the B story of the movie, which is one of the main characters who has now just gotten sick. All his friends are waiting for him. They want to hang out, and they're just killing time, and they kill time by going to the cemetery. Now, before we get to the cemetery scene, I just want to say this is where you begin to notice the fashion, the music, the dialogue, and it's all very 80s. And it was all something very much I enjoyed, because I missed out on a lot of the 80s because I was a baby in the 80s. I didn't know and experience any of this stuff. So that was cool. So now we have all these kids hanging out at the cemetery. In this next scene, while gratuitous, I did very much enjoy, where there's this beautiful, beautiful redheaded girl, just for no reason, starts stripping in the middle of the cemetery, and she looks great. And she wants to get down with one of the guys, and he is having no part of it, because he has, quote, respect for the dead, as they're all hanging out and partying in the graveyard. So then we move on back to the warehouse, where the main boss has been called by the two workers, and he comes in and he sees the nightmare that he is now dealing with, where you have corpses in cold rooms now alive and wanting to get out, and they are forced to cut up and hack up this body, and throw it in bags, and they're trying to figure out what exactly it is we're going to do. When they go across the street, because the man that owns the warehouse, the guy that owns the warehouse, is very close friends with the neighborhood mortician and undertaker who's right next door. So he heads over there to ask his friend, the mortician, for a favor, and the guy pretty much says, "All right, but you're going to owe me later," not realizing what he's dealing with. At first, they try to sell him on the fact that these are all just rabid weasels, and we just need to burn them up. And then he quickly realizes these are not weasels. This is a living dead situation. And it takes him a while, but he comes around, and then he agrees to burn the body in the incinerator of the building. So they go through all this. They burn the corpse little by little, set it on fire, the whole deal. We then see all the burnt up remains going up through a smokestack into the sky, which causes a rainstorm, a thunderstorm, a lightning storm, and it begins to rain. And it's raining down whatever toxin made the living dead become reanimated. And as the kids from the Beast story hanging out in the cemetery are hanging out, the rain starts pouring down on them and their skin is burning. It is like acid rain to them. They run back to the car and they're freaking out. And so a little bit more time goes by, and then they get tired of just hanging out in the rain, and so they make a run for it. They make a run for it, and they find but they are confronted by zombies, but they go their own ways. And the red girl is left behind by everybody. She's attacked. She later becomes a zombie. Some of the more there is a girl in this group of friends that was dating one of the main characters that is now sick, and she has gone to go looking for him, and she winds up in the basement, and she discovers the monster that was in the canister, the living dead that was in the canister that everyone believed was melted. He is not melted. He is after her. But thankfully, her friends come down and save her. One of her friends is unfortunately eaten. His brains are crunched on by the monster. But the rest of them do get away and lock him in the basement. And then they make their way across the street to the mortician, to the undertaker, who slowly lets them in. And they're all starting to realize the situation they are in. As while this was going on, paramedics had shown up because they believed they called it in as a poisoning to get their friends help, because the two guys from the beginning of the movie are now very, very sick from breathing in whatever they breathed in, the toxin, to make them sick. So the paramedics show up. These guys do not have a heartbeat. The guys that are sick, they do not have a heartbeat. They do not have blood pressure. They're dead, but they're moving. And no one's really knowing what to think of any of this, as the paramedics go outside and they are then attacked by a horde of zombies. And credit to the zombies for being very smart, because they get on the walkie-talkie and they call in more paramedics, and more paramedics are attacked. And then cops show up, and then cops are attacked, and they're back on the radio again, and they're calling in more cops. And every time somebody else shows up, somebody gets eaten. Hold on, I just got notes here, blah, blah, blah. Now the two friends have gotten very sick, and they decide they are going to lock them into the church, the cathedral of this room, to separate them from everybody else. The girl who was attracted and dating one of the main characters, she decides to stay in the room with them as they're sick, and so they lock it up. As they are together, for some reason, one guy gets way sicker than the other one, because this guy starts trying to attack his girlfriend and eat her. But she gets out. There's a struggle. There's a fight. Something happens where this now zombie gets acid thrown in his eyes, and he's now blind, and everyone scatters off. And they begin to come up with the plan that we need to get out of here. And while all this had gone on, the zombies had tried to come in through the house, through a window, but the people were fought off and whatever. but they wound up grabbing like this rotting female corpse and pulled her in, but she somehow split in half. And then they then tie her down to a medical bed in the examination room, and they start trying to interrogate her. This is a very weird, very creepy scene. Well done. But fast forward to where I left off, where we're trying to formulate a plan to get out of here. And then the plan becomes make a running start for one of the cop cars that are outside. So one of the main characters and two of the main characters, they make a run for the car. They get in the car. They try to drive the car back to help their friends, but they're swarmed by zombies, and they drive off. And the people inside are freaking out that they drove off. And everybody's just trying to come up with a plan. The the fracas. The car is wrecked. They run back into the warehouse where all this started. Back at the mortuary, the mortician and the female lead character who had a thing for the guy who's now a zombie. They crawl up into the attic to hide and reinforce it and whatever. And somehow, this guy who can't see and is just a zombie finds the room, sets up a ladder, climbs it, and is trying to bang his way into the room without much success. And now back to the warehouse where the guys that drove off are now trying to formulate their plan. They decide to go into the basement because they remember there is a military phone number on the side of the canister, but no one ever wanted to call it because they didn't want to involve the military and get in trouble. So they find their way down there. They fight off whoever they need to fight off. They make the phone call. They call the military. They reach this guy who was in the very beginning of the movie, which I forgot to cover because it's such a small plot point it slipped my mind. But there's this guy in the very beginning. It's just he comes home from work. He has this weird computer. He's talking about things that are missing, and you never know when they might turn up. And the wife is kind of a pain in the ass to him about it. He is the man that is reached when this military number is called. He talks everybody. He talks the main character through it. He tells them there's a plan in place and not to worry. As all this is going on, the zombie that is now blind and is after his girlfriend busts in through the attic. Now, as a side note, when I saw this movie as a kid, this is where the movie always ended for me. I never saw anything other than this psycho busted in through the attic door, and to me it felt like a to be continued. But I think I understand why, because network television didn't probably didn't feel like playing the next scene, because the next scene is the military, the army, the government ex- releasing a nuclear bomb on this area that has been overrun by zombies. They just wipe out everybody. Everybody dead. Zombies, non-zombies, nobody made it out. And then at the very end, you're seeing the cleanup of this. You're seeing the cleanup. You're seeing the fallout. And then at the very end, you see another rainstorm, and it's pretty much going to do the same thing it just did. This isn't over. We got problems. So that was the movie. I very much enjoyed it. I hope that wasn't too confusing. It's my first time trying to do a verbal synopsis of a film. Like I said, I very much enjoyed this movie. I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. I would recommend anyone to watch it. It works as comedy, it works as violence, it works as gore, it works as horror. It was campy. I enjoyed it. It was my kind of thing. And so, yeah, I would recommend you all jump on HBO Max or do whatever you do and go watch this movie. I really liked it. And so that's that. The next movie I'll probably review will be Major League, from 1989. There will be, before that, might be one or two more reviews this week. Maybe a television show. I got to figure out which television show I want to review. I got a couple ideas on my mind. But thank you, anybody who took the time to watch this and not get bored of me and give me the time of day. I know you don't know me from a hole in the wall. Thank you for watching. And thank you for hanging in there. I know, you have better things to do with your time than watch an overweight guy with a list talk about movies. So thank you very much, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.